Hi, I'm Admiral, and in this video, I'll be playing Pokémon Emerald. That's it. There's no challenges, no gimmicks, just a 23-year-old playing an 18-year-old game to entertain strangers on the internet, all of whom are going to pretend that this is a completely normal thing for a person to do. I've said it before, but I'll say it again for those that haven't seen my other videos. Emerald is hands down my favorite Pokémon game. I'm not sure why, but I always find myself coming back to it. The only thing I'll be doing deliberately throughout this run is trying to use Pokemon I don't normally use. My final team almost always ends up being Blaziken, Ludicolo, Gardevoir, Manectric, and Swellow, who usually gets swapped out for Salamence by the end. The last spot tends to change based on how I'm feeling during a given playthrough, but is also reserved for an HM Pokemon for travel. My goal this time is to use a team comprised mainly of Pokemon I've never used before, but that's also not entirely feasible, so we'll see how it goes. As always, I'm writing the script for this as I play, so the commentary will consist mostly of my unfiltered thoughts from throughout the playthrough. Let's get started. The game begins as normal in Littleroot Town. I meet May before going to rescue Professor Birch, where I pick up my starter. In all of my several playthroughs, I almost always pick Torchic. In runs where I choose Mudkip, the only change to the team lineup is swapping Ludicolo out for Breloom, but that's about as interesting as it gets. For this playthrough, I like to branch out a little and take Trico. I actually have an idea for what our final lineup is going to look like, but I want to see if it changes at all by the end of the game. Go ahead and try to guess in the comments what the final team will look like. I'll leave a comment of my own detailing what I expect our team to be, and we can all compare notes. Anyway, I battle May, and Trico wallops her Torchic before I receive the Pokedex and some Pokeballs. On my way out of town, I catch a Poochyena, a Wurmple, a Zigzagoon, and a Wingull. Wingull will be especially valuable in this one, as its dual water and flying type will be a great counter to May's Torchic, who will eventually have a dual fire and fighting type. Plus, I don't think I've ever actually used Pelipper before, so I think it'll stay on the team. The same goes for Poochyena, and Wurmple may stick around for a while too, depending on its evolution. Before I do the Petalburg catching tutorial, I look for Ralts. Even though I always use Gardevoir, it's such a good Pokemon that I can't really pass it up. I also catch a Seedot here since it's only a 1% encounter chance. Zigzagoon's pickup ability snagged me an Ultra Ball, so after I finally find my Ralts, I catch it and meet Wally. He catches a Ralts to match mine, though he just uses a regular Pokeball, and we get to move on. From here on out, I'm only going to mention the encounters that I think will matter, since this will be way too long otherwise. Speaking of which, I catch Talo just outside of Petalburg Woods before heading in. I then beat the crap out of a Team Aqua Grunt in the Petalburg Woods before moving on to Rustboro. As a side note, can we take a moment to acknowledge how messed up that Devon researcher is? Dude literally uses a child as a human shield. It bothered me during my very first playthrough of this game when I was a kid, and it still does to this day. Anyway, Rustboro is a seat of the Rock-type gym, so I'm not very worried. Trico was already at level 14, and with some training, Wingull should be able to take care of anything that Trico doesn't finish off. In fact, I go ahead and train up the entire team before starting. The only interesting thing that happens is learning that our Wurmple is going to become a Dustox, so after we train, we go to the gym. Surprisingly enough, the Roxanne fight is actually really difficult and nah, I'm just kidding. Trico takes down her entire team pretty easily. The only tough spot is Nose Pass, but between Roxanne using turns to heal, choosing bad moves, and missing Rock Tomb, we never even get hit. Even if we did get super unlucky and get hit a bunch, a held Oranberry and Absorb would have kept us pretty healthy. Plus, Wingull is hanging out with Watergun. After the fight, Trico evolves into Grovyle, and we move on. I rematched the Team Aqua Grunt from Petalburg Woods, whose Poochyena is far easier to take down with Grovyle's handy-dandy new Fury Cutter, and then I receive a Pokénav and a mission from Mr. Stone. He requests that I deliver a letter to his son, Steven, in Dewford Town. Funnier people than me have said it before, but it's worth mentioning that this dude's company has invented the mobile phone, which we know Steven has since he gives us his contact info from Granite Cave, but Mr. Stone still has us run a letter to him. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to do it anyway. The reward is the experience share, a helpful item that will make training the team up much easier. After clearing through the optional May fight, I take some time to grab a Slackoth from Petalburg Woods on my way to Mr. Briney's place to sail to Dewford. I arrive and head straight for the Granite Cave. There are some Pokemon here that I want, but training them will be far easier with the experience share, so I can knock out two birds with one stone. On my way through, I catch Aaron, Zubat, and Makuhita. Zubat will be solid for this gym, while Aaron and Makuhita are just good Pokemon to have. I deliver the letter, head back to Rustboro for the experience share, and train up the crew. Since this is a fighting type gym, my crack squadron for this will be Ralts, Talo, Dustox, and Wingull. I was tempted to evolve an Incada that I got into Shedinja or to catch Sableye in the Granite Cave, since Brawly's Pokemon can't hit ghost types, but those Pokemon don't learn anything super helpful by level up, so I decided to give it a miss. I'd also initially planned to use Zubat, but it turns out that it doesn't learn a flying type move until level 21, and I'm not interested in training that much, so I ended up swapping it out for Dustox, who learns Confusion comparatively early. I lead with said Dustox into Brawly's matchup. Although Dustox is underleveled compared to Brawly's team, her quad resistance to fighting moves more than makes up for it. I'm just relying on her to get us to the only real threat on Brawly's team, his Makuhita. She takes down Matchup with a combination of Confusion and, well, Confusion, and then it's over to Meditite. I'm a bit concerned after Gust doesn't do much damage, but then Dustox crits a second hit to take Meditite down. Last is his Makuhita, so I bring in Tailo for stab wing attacks. Our first hit does great damage, taking Makuhita to just under half health, but a combination of Bulk Up and a Citrus Berry means that our follow-up attack keeps him just at half. Even worse, Makuhita one-shots Tailo with Vital Throw, so it's over to Wingull. I go for Supersonic, hoping to get Makuhita to hit itself, but we miss our first go, and he never hits himself once he is confused, so poor Wingull's fate is sealed as I accidentally have it use Water Gun instead of Wing Attack. I go back over to Dustox, hoping that she can do enough damage to let Ralts and Grovyle finish it off, but instead she just finishes the battle herself. A surprising end to a surprisingly hard battle. Now that Dustox has carried us through that gym, we're done in Dewford and can sail to Slateport. I do some more Team Aqua stuff, but it's nothing too difficult, so I can move on to Mauville next. Before leaving, I make sure to snag a harbor mail from the shop so I can get the coin case. I also stick around for two things. First, I catch an Electrike. Good electric types can be hard to come by in Pokemon, so grabbing one while I can is always a good call. I also train Ralts up, letting her evolve into Kirlia. There's no specific reason that I want to do this now, it just feels like the best time to do it. Once that's done, I head north to battle May. She leads with Wingull, who goes down to a couple of absorbs from Grovyle. Next is Circumbuskin, who swaps attacks with my Wingull before also going down. Even though Wingull is pretty hurt, I keep him in as May sends out her Lombre. It takes a Wing Attack to half before hitting Wingull pretty hard with an Absorb, so I have to switch back to Grovyle. I try to use a super effective Fury Cutter on Lombre, but after missing 2 out of 3 attacks, I switch to Absorb to keep Grovyle healthy and eke out a win. It feels worth mentioning that Fury Cutter has 95 accuracy, so the odds of missing 2 like that are just exceptionally low. After that, I finally make it to Mauville, where I battle Wally. I take it easy on him by leading with Makuhita, but his Ralts just goes down to a critical Vital Throw after 1 growl, so yeah. This town has an electric gym, but I don't have any ground types to deal with it. It's kind of frustrating that the only guaranteed strategy for this gym is to take Mudkip as your starter, since the only other ground type available for this gym is Geodude. But I can make do. Watson's Ace Manectric is level 24, the same level as Makuhita's evolution. With Gulpin just to the south that can poison us and get our Guts boost going, I'm pretty sure we could just smack all of his Pokemon with Vital Throw. I lead Hariyama into Watson's Voltorb, a Pokemon that threatens with Self-Destruct. I always forget that Watson has this thing, but Self-Destruct is pretty much the only scary move it has. Hariyama makes it flinch with a Fake Out that also leaves it deep in the red, causing Watson to heal before a 3-hit Arm Thrust takes it out. Next is Electrike, who sets up a Howl before going down to a single Vital Throw. Third out is Magneton, who hits a pretty hard Shockwave. Hariyama retaliates with an Arm Thrust to take the thing down, and last out is Watson's Manectric. It just ends up being the exact same sequence of events as Electrike, Howl into Vital Throw, so we win with very little difficulty. I decide to box Zigzagoon and Dustox going forward. Zigzagoon's pickup item pool is no longer very helpful for this stage of the game, and there's nothing that Dustox can do that another Pokemon won't be just as capable of doing. One of them is replaced in the party by Electrike, who immediately gets the TM for Thunderbolt thanks to some redacted in the game corner, and the other is replaced by our next encounter, Numel. Numel is a dual fire and ground type Pokemon who learns Earthquake fairly early by level up. Combined with Wingull, he should be a great answer to the next gym themed around fire type Pokemon. First, I have to do a bunch of story stuff. I trek all the way north to Fall Arbor Town and evolve Wingull along the way into Pelipper. We also learn Protect, so that's Norman's slacking pretty much handled. After that, I battle Maxie at the peak of an active volcano, which, now that I'm thinking about it, is an awesome setting for a fight. Anyway, I get to Lava Ridge and take some time to grind out the rest of the team's levels. I know that Pelipper can probably just solo the next 2 gyms, but I don't want the rest of the team to fall behind as a result. I think getting everyone around level 26 is the goal, since that's when Kirlia learns Psychic, so it'll be our next major upgrade to the team. I end up leaving Electrike at level 21 though, since I can only ever seem to encounter Numel when he's in the lead, but otherwise we're good to handle Flannery. Flannery's first 3 Pokemon, Numel, Slugmanuts, and Camerupt all go down to a single water gun each from Pelipper, so there's nothing too special to talk about until we get to her ace, Torkoal. I have Pelipper go for Supersonic first, hoping to keep Torkoal from setting up a Sunny Day, and it works as she just hits herself in Confusion. Pelipper hits a decently strong water gun, but Torkoal snaps out of Confusion immediately to set up the Sun. Instead of doing the smart thing and using Protect and Wing Attack to stall out the Sunshine so Water Gun can finish it off, I just keep going for Water Gun after another Supersonic, so Flannery heals after attracting Pelipper to her Torkoal. Eventually, though, I'm able to brute force my way into a win without too much trouble. Next up is the normal gym back in Petalburg, and I'm heading straight there. Pelipper should be able to stall out Slacking without issue, and Hariyama is available for Norman's other Pokemon, so I'm not too worried about this one. I get there, clear out the gym trainers, and start the battle. I lead Hariyama into Norman's Spinda. He opens with Teeter Dance, but a held Personberry cures the confusion as we one-shot with Vital Throw. Vigoroth is next and hits a solid slash before another Vital Throw one-shots. Lanute is third and uses Belly Drum to do half of the work for us before also going down to Vital Throw. Last is Slacking, so I switch to Pelipper. Nothing really interesting happens here though. I use Supersonic to confuse it, and then use Protect on turns that it can attack and Attack on turns that it can't. It's really tedious, but it is the safest strategy. Unfortunately, I find myself running low on Protect PP rather quickly, and Slacking takes basically no damage, but I am able to get its HP low enough that Hariyama should be able to kill with Arm Thrust even if it only rolls for 2 attacks. I switch in on a loafing turn, and my heart sinks as Norman heals the thing back to full, putting us in serious danger. Luckily, a combination of Truant and Norman healing ensure that Hariyama never even gets hit, so a few Vital Throws and Arm Thrusts are able to take the big beast down. Next up is some more travel with a sprinkling of story mixed in. I also have another mandatory May fight. She leads with Pelipper, so I lead with our newly evolved Manectric. One Thunderbolt is more than enough to one-shot after a Protect turn, so it's over to our Pelipper as Combustion comes out. A Stab, Rain-boosted Surf could probably one-shot it 2 times over, so it's not much of a battle. Last is her Lombre, who goes down to 2 wing attacks, winning the last May fight of the run. Now that I've made it to Fortree, I get to go see Steven, point out Kecleon's shadow on the water again, and prepare to do battle with Winona. Once again, I'll need to do some grinding here. Pelipper has Ice Beam, so we have one answer for her flying types, but I want to catch Manectric up so I'll have better matchups into some of her other team members. I also decide to catch a Tropius while I'm here, who I nickname Andrew. I don't actually plan to use it, this is just a joke for a target audience of exactly 2 people. After that, I'm ready for the gym battle against Winona. She leads with a Swablu, who goes down to a single Thunderbolt for my lead Manectric. Next out is her ace Altaria, threatening with Dragon Dance and Earthquake. I switch to Pelipper and nail it with a quad effective Ice Beam after taking a nasty Dragon Breath. Another Dragon Breath takes Pelipper to yellow health, but we're able to finish Altaria off right after. I keep Pelipper in as her Tropius comes out. We outspeed to hit another quad effective Ice Beam to one-shot. Next is Winona's Pelipper, so I send out Manectric. It delays the inevitable as it protects away a Thunderbolt, but on the next turn goes down as expected. Last is Winona's Skarmory, who just barely doesn't get one-shot by Thunderbolt, and so wastes a few turns with Hyper Potions. Manectric resists all of Skarmory's attacking moves though, so we're never in any real danger as the battle comes to a close. There's a ton of story stuff between us and the next gym, which is a perfect time to focus on training. I want to get Grovyle to evolve into Sceptile, Curlia to evolve into Gardevoir, and Numel to evolve into Camerupt. I'm thinking about also grabbing Poochyena out of the box, since the next gym is a Psychic-type gym, but I'm not sure yet. One of the major stops for the story is Mount Pyre, where we can find a few ghost types, so that may be our better option. I cut a bloody path through the Magma hideout, and then make my way to the Aqua hideout to do the exact same thing. I clear the place out, grab a Tentacool for Dive and Waterfall HM use, and head to Moss Deep. I still haven't figured out a strategy for the Psychic Gym, and their team is a higher level than any of my Pokemon. This does give me a unique opportunity to really optimize my training for this one gym, but I have to be really deliberate about which Pokemon I bring with me. If I teach Shadow Ball to any of my Pokemon, that Pokemon will have to come to the Elite Four with me since it's the best move to deal with Phoebe. Alternatively, I could hold off on using it and try to brute force the gym with the Pokemon that I have now, focusing on the leader's Pokemon's secondary typings instead of the Psychic type's weaknesses. Bringing Pelipper is an easy decision for this gym. Its ground immunity means that Claydol can't hurt it with Earthquake, while Surf guarantees super effective damage on Solrock and Lunatone, while Ice Beam does the exact same thing for Xatu and Claydol. Sceptile isn't too bad here either, as Xatu is the only Pokemon that isn't going to be weak to Leaf Blade. Given that they're already my highest level Pokemon, I eventually decide that these two will be my duo for this gym. I know that was a lot of talking and not a lot of gym battling, But I've said in other videos that I want you guys to be able to follow my thought process for stuff like this so you can understand my decisions a little bit better. Speaking of which, after watching this battle back for script writing purposes, it might look a little slow, but it's just because I didn't realize how long I was sitting thinking about my moves, so sorry for that. After a couple of failed attempts, I end up with this run where I decide to double into Xatu with Ice Beam in pursuit instead of focusing on Claydol. Xatu uses Calm Mind before Pelipper can attack, so we don't get a one-turn KO. Claydol just spams Earthquake as Xatu is now low enough for Tate and Liza to heal, so I have Pelipper do some damage with Ice Beam after Sceptile hits Claydol hard with Leaf Blade. Claydol is now in healing range, so it's a bit safer to double up into Xatu again to finish it off after it sets up Sunny Day. Surf is going to be weaker now, which sucks, but I can't really do anything about it. What's even worse is that Solrock now threatens with a boosted Flamethrower into Sceptile. I have Sceptile hit it with a Leaf Blade, which thankfully one-shots before it can attack as Pelipper goes for Surf. Lunatone is out next and gets hit by that Surf as Claydol just continues going for Earthquake. Another Leaf Blade finishes Lunatone off before Pelipper hits a hard Ice Beam into Claydol. A final Leaf Blade from Sceptile finishes the fight, winning us a very deliberative gym badge. Next is more story stuff. Team Magma threatens to blow up Mount Chimney for fun, so I team up with Steven to stop that from happening. After we take down all of their Pokemon and one of Steven's, Maxie has a crisis of faith and leaves. I'm rewarded with the HM for Dive, so now I get to go do the exact same thing to Archie. Kyogre uses Fly to go visit Groudon and Setopolis, and Maxie saves me and Archie from the Seafloor Cavern. Steven drops in to tell me not to do anything reckless, so I decide to travel by sea during the worst rainstorm in history before floating right next to two violent, angry legendary Pokemon as they fight. I reunite with Steven, who takes me to meet the other best-dressed man in Hoenn, Wallace, in the Cave of Origin. There, we discover that the solution to our problem is on the cover of the game's box, and set out to grab Rayquaza. Rayquaza breaks up the fight between Groudon and Kyogre, the rain stops, and I can challenge the 8th and final gym. This is a water-type gym, so between Manectric and Sceptile, this shouldn't be remotely difficult. Juan, the third best-dressed man in Hoenn, leaves with Love Disc, and I set up Manectric. Love Disc goes down to one Thunderbolt, so Juan sends out Whiscash. I respond by sending out Sceptile, who's able to take it down in one quad-effective Leaf Blade. Third is Celio, so it's back up to Manectric. You, picking up on the pattern here yet? One Thunderbolt takes it down, and Juan sends out his Crawdon. To nobody's surprise, Sceptile is back out to one-shot with Leaf Blade, so Juan sends out his last Pokemon, his Rest and double-team spamming Kingdra. I send out Manectric, who starts plugging away with Thunderbolt. Between full paralysis and Juan taking turns to heal, it only gets to set up one double-team and never uses Rest, but it is able to take down Manectric. It's pretty low on HP, but I'm still not confident that Leaf Blade kills here, so I can only pray for a crit as Sceptile goes for it, and doesn't crit, but takes it down anyway. Nice. That's the last gym then. All we have left now is Victory Road and the Pokemon League, but I still haven't decided on my final team. I've been working on this playthrough for over a week at this point, so I need to minimize grinding and repeat attempts as much as I can. My team needs to reflect that lack of effort, so I need at least one Pokemon who can carry... Oh. Yeah, okay, that works. Rayquaza definitely works. I battle Wally and take him down without too much effort. I grind the rest of the team to an acceptable level too. For the first time, maybe ever, Gardevoir is not coming to the Elite Four with me. It's the lowest level and, ironically, has the lowest utility of any Pokemon I have, so it'll be hanging out in the box so Rayquaza can join up. I get the rest of the team to at least level 40, since that's about all the grinding I can stand to do, use a few rare candies to top off Sceptile, and get ready to start. Before the Pokemon League, I'll give you guys the first and only stat check of the run. It should be pretty clear which Pokemon I'm relying on to be our heavy hitters here. Not training Hariyama more will almost definitely bite me in the ass, but getting good matchups while grinding was so tedious that I eventually gave up. He should still be good to do some damage though. Speaking of which, first up is Sydney, whose dark types offer Hariyama an excellent matchup. Sydney leads with his Mightyena, whose Intimidate cuts Hariyama's attack. I open with Fake Out and then use Bulk Up to offset the Intimidate drop. I also expect Mightyena to use Swagger here, which will give us a major opportunity to sweep since Hariyama's holding a Person Berry. Instead, he uses Sand Attack, so after a nasty double edge, I have Hariyama use Brick Break to finish it. Shift Tree is next, so I switch to Pelipper to shake off the accuracy drop and nail it with a critical Ice Beam to one-shot. Absol is third, so I go back over to Hariyama. I open with Fake Out again, before Absol tries to set up with Swords Dance. Instead of sweeping, it just gets one-shot by Brick Break. Cacturne is fourth out, and nails Hariyama with a nasty Needle Arm before Brick Break takes it down. Last is Groudon, and I keep Hariyama in since he's so close to leveling up. That ends up being a mistake, as Groudon outspeeds and finishes Hariyama off with the Surf. I have Manectric come out to one-shot with Thunderbolt, avenging Hariyama and winning the battle. Next up are Phoebe and her Ghost types. None of our team members can learn Shadow Ball, and we don't have many good Dark-type moves, so I just have Rayquaza come in and sweep with Earthquake and Dragon Claw. Is this exceedingly lazy? Yes. Have I been playing this game for over a week, and am I also beginning to suffer from anxiety about getting the video made and finished in a timely manner? Yes, and yes. The only remotely interesting thing here is that Rayquaza gets frozen by Ice Beam, but we immediately defrost, so it didn't really matter at all. A win's a win, gang. Let's just take it and move on. Third is Glacia, and her Ice types are a bit scary. Most of them are partial Water types though, so Manectric, Hariyama, and Camerupt should be able to clear this, provided nothing goes wrong. I lead Manectric into her first Celio. Manectric nails it to just below half health with Thunderbolt, as it just sets up Hail. A follow-up takes it down, so Glacia sends out her first Glalie, and things begin to go wrong. I send out Hariyama, who takes massive damage from Ice Beam before retaliating with an equally nasty Brick Break. Unfortunately, we're not surviving a second hit, so I hard switch to Camerupt. This is a massive misplay on my end, since Camerupt also takes absurd damage from Ice Beam. We don't outspeed, so a second Ice Beam takes Camerupt down. I send Manectric back out as the hail stops and finish Glalie off with a Thunderbolt. Next is Glacia's second Celio, but it's the exact same story as the first one. Glacia sends out her second Glalie next, and this time I keep Manectric in. Defying all of my expectations, Glalie just uses Explosion, so now I'm down my Electric type as her Walrein comes out. I send out Pelipper, hoping to do some damage with Fly, but Walrein outspeeds and nails it with fucking Sheer Cold, so that plan ends up being a bust. Frustrated, I send out Rayquaza. Its quad weakness to Ice means this is very unsafe, but it's still my best option. Earthquake takes Walrein down to yellow health before Rayquaza is left deep in the red from Ice Beam. We only needed to survive though, so a follow-up Earthquake finishes this incredibly irritating battle off. Last for the Elite Four is Drake. As the name implies, he uses Dragon types. Pelipper's Ice Beam and Rayquaza's everything should be more than enough to get us through this. I send out Pelipper into his lead Shelgon, who opens with a Protect. On the next turn, Ice Beam takes it low and Pelipper is left just above half health by a Dragon Claw. A follow-up finishes Shelgon off, so Drake opts for the nuclear option, his ace, Salamence. If you've seen my other Emerald video, you know that Pelipper is not getting any more screen time in this fight. Salamence outspeeds and finishes Pelipper off, so Rayquaza comes out and sweeps up the rest of Drake's team with Dragon Claw. That gets us to the Champions Room and the finale of the playthrough. The battle begins with Wallace's Wailord facing off against Manectric. A Thunderbolt takes Wailord low, so its Water Spout in return doesn't kill. After a Citrus Berry helps Manectric out, we finish Wailord off. Gyarados is out next, threatening with Earthquake, but we outspeed to one-shot with Thunderbolt. Wallace responds by sending out Whiscash, so I send out Sceptile. One Leaf Blade takes care of Whiscash, so Wallace sends out Melodic. In hindsight, I should have sent out Manectric instead of keeping Sceptile in, but I didn't do that. Leaf Blade takes Melodic to about a quarter HP, and it nails Sceptile with a devastating Ice Beam. A follow-up Leaf Blade does way more damage thanks to Overgrow, but it still barely misses out on a kill. Ice Beam takes Sceptile down, and it's over to Manectric for Thunderbolt as Wallace heals. Eventually, Melodic is able to conquer Manectric too, so Pelipper comes out and suffers the same fate thanks to Toxic and Ice Beam. In an attempt to turn the tide and end the carnage unfolding before me, I send out Rayquaza, the last bastion against Massacre. Dragon Claw does solid damage as Rayquaza tanks Ice Beam, and an Earthquake finishes off Melodic to keep the run alive. Tentacool is one-shot by Earthquake, so last is Wallace's Ludicolo. It just spams Double Team as we miss Fly, but like the IRA, we only have to get lucky once. We do eventually connect, winning the battle and finishing the playthrough. With that, we're in the Hall of Fame and the run is over. I've beaten this game plenty of times, which kind of ended up hurting me. Between solid strategy and never hitting any major walls, I came to the Elite Four incredibly underleveled. I think if I'd been willing to sacrifice a day to just get levels, this would have been way less Rayquaza heavy than it was, but I really want to get this one out. Besides, there's nothing more totally normal in a Pokemon playthrough than sweeping the endgame with a legendary, right? Look, I love Emeralds, but I also just played it a little over a month ago, so I'm not too eager to play it again anytime soon. At least, not for a regular playthrough. This run also renewed my love for the Universal Experience share of later generations, and the easy access to rare candies and experience candies in Generations 8 and 9 from raids. Having to grind levels on whole teams of Pokemon is always the most miserable part of any early gen playthrough, and doing the pseudo-legendary playthroughs had made me forget just how much I hate it. But otherwise, I don't really have anything else to say about this one. It was a nice break from the pseudo-legendary runs, which we'll be resuming in the next video. I'll be playing Ultra Sun with just Kommo-o, and I can already feel in my bones that I'm gonna have trouble with that one. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. If there's anything you want to see me attempt in the future, drop a comment. In fact, drop a comment anyway. Algorithms like engagement, and I'm always looking for feedback from all of you. And as always, thank you so much for watching.